right. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I am Amy Baker, Environmental Program Manager for the City of Glendale in Arizona, and I am the House Delegate for AZ Water. This is the second in a series of 2025 monthly MA Spotlight webinars. The House of Delegates has a work group that is putting together a handful of MA spotlights and procuring a process to hand over to the Communications Committee to move forward with. Before we begin with the panel interview, I would like to invite Archana Sharma to provide our DEI moment. Archana?
Hi, everyone. If you all can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're signing in from. Happy to present the DEI moment. I'm Archana. I'm from Texas, and I'm the WEF Delegate at Large, and I represent WEET MA. So we all love holidays. We're all going into the holiday season right now. I'm sure all of you are excited about that and kind of planning your vacation and time with family. And thankfully, all of our employees, I think, have a holiday calendar, right? Like something for us to keep track of. And most of these show up in your calendars. You plan your meetings and your conferences and everything else throughout the year based on that. What if we considered an international holiday calendar from a D&I perspective? What this really is to build a calendar that involves listing and recognizing various holidays that's observed globally and accommodating the diverse backgrounds of your company's workforce. And this could be Diwali for Indians who celebrate that, and Ramadan, Lunar New Year, Christmas, every festival that may be celebrated throughout the world, and putting that in one calendar. And what this does is this will promote inclusivity in your own firm. This will acknowledge the diverse range of cultural, religious, and secular holidays that are being celebrated. Further, if you are a leader in your company and you're scheduling certain company-wide events or even critical meetings that you want all your employees to be part of, looking at this calendar will help make sure that you plan this around these holidays. So I'm sharing a calendar that my firm, Mead & Hunt, published in 2024, and they do this every year. As you can see, maybe hard to read, but the idea is every month, different cultural holidays and festivals are listed here. So I've also listed some advantages and I guess benefits of doing this here. I don't want to read everything out, but if your company doesn't do it right yet, I hope you will embrace this idea and implement that in 2025. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great idea. So I'll take it from here. So thank you, Archana. That's really awesome. So I'm Anna Munson. I am a WEF delegate for Central States Water Environment Association, or CESWIA, or we just call ourselves Central States a lot of times. And I've served many roles within our member association. So today we have some panelists to talk to us about their budgeting and financial sustainability with their member association, AZ Water. So we have John Mache, we have Tom Gilswowski. Sorry about that, Tom. I should have practiced more. Brian Brunson and Suzanne Durkin Bighorn. And I'll be leading this panel discussion for today. So AZ Water has a very robust budgeting process, but beyond that, they've made a strategic plan to ensure that their programs, their benefits, and the plan itself are financially supported and sustainable. So after the panel has had time to do their short curated question presentation, we will open this up for questions to the panel. So let's get started. So my first question is going to be for John. So what activities does AZ Water put on that make the most revenue?
Thank you. So in answer to the first question, our biggest revenue generator is our annual conference, which we hold in the spring, either in April or May every year. And that's our largest revenue producer. It's our largest event. We have over 2,500 attendees, over 300 exhibitors. Just about every wastewater professional within the state of Arizona tries to make it to the exhibition at least one day that we have it. It's held at the Phoenix Convention Center. We have, like I said, we have several hundred exhibitors. We have several different layers of sponsorships. And then obviously we have a registration cost for the attendees. And so that event typically nets us several $100,000 for the year, and it's our largest revenue generator. But several years ago, we decided to branch out with our revenue streams to try to give the association more stability and not rely just on the annual conference for revenue for the year. And so we looked at our management in general, our dues and program expenses from our national organizations. And then also we looked at our program committees. So the program committees are the ones that are actually putting on the events and doing the teaching and providing the experience and education for our members. And so we did a really deep dive into the program committees. And one of the things we realized was that they're very heavily sponsorship driven, but that sponsorship was not necessarily being captured back to the organization. We weren't recognizing those sponsors as well as we should have. So we've kind of formalized the sponsorship process for our program committees. And then also we looked at what was the cost of the event, the training seminar, the webinar, what have you. And we tried to, we looked at all that and tried to come up with more of a standardized pricing structure for the program committees for their events. So we looked at all that, and so that's one of the ways that we were able to, increase our financial stability moving forward. And we did this probably about 7 years ago now.
So are there any tricks to becoming financially sustainable?
There's a couple of tricks.
Okay.
The first one is to budget. You need to have a budget. All of our program committees, we have over 30 program committees in the association. All of them do a budget each year for their committee. In addition, we have several other specialty activities that go on throughout the year, and they're all required to put together a budget as well. Our fiscal year is the same as the calendar year, so it's January through December, and typically we start our budgeting process in late September, early October, and everybody starts off from zero. So nobody has, a couple have little reserve funds, but for the most part, everybody starts at zero at the beginning of the year. And what we've asked for, especially from the program committees, is to make sure that they are, recovering their expenses. So they're income based. And so we want to make sure that those are generating some income back to the organization to cover other activities that are not revenue generators for us. Big part of the budgeting process is that we ask them to account for all of their activities and all of their expenses. And we hold the program committees, kind of hold them accountable. If they want to do an event, if they change courses in the middle of the year, they want to do an event and it wasn't budgeted, we do make them budget that event and come back to the board and provide information to the board on what that event is and what the impact is to the budget. It helps during the budget process, it allows the board to see all the events, identify any scheduling conflicts, allocate staff resources as necessary, and then it allows us to check, make sure that the committees are pricing events appropriately, like I talked about earlier. So, but that, and then being fiscally conservative, understanding that we are a 501c3 organization that is educationally driven for our members, and that we're utilizing our resources, our fiscal resources, to the best extent possible.
That was really helpful. So, thanks, John. So you also, I've learned, have a tri-state seminar. So Tom, could you tell us a little bit about the tri-state seminar and how it's structured? I'm afraid you might be muted. Can you unmute yourself?
There we go.
Thank you.
Is that better?
There we go.
Sorry. So thanks, Anna, and hi, everyone. So the Tri-State Seminar was an idea that first came about 40 years ago. And the origin for it was the utility managers from the Arizona, California, and Nevada area were getting concerned with their ability of their operations staff to get good training. There was some concern that at the annual conference, the presentations that were being made were kind of moving away from operator kind of themed presentations to more theoretical or engineering design type things. And so that's where the idea for the seminar originated. Basically what it is, it's a 3-day conference and exhibition. And the goal, as you see there, is to provide affordable, high quality education to water and wastewater professionals in the Western US. The first conference was held back in 1985 in Bullhead City, Arizona. The name was originally Tri-State Seminar on the River because it was right there on the Colorado River. As the conference grew over time, it moved from Bullhead City to Laughlin, and then to Primm, Nevada, which is nowhere near the Colorado River. And then in 2013, we ended up in Las Vegas, which finally it had Las Vegas has hotel and conference facilities that were big enough to hold the event. So the original collaboration, there were 4 entities involved. There was AZ Water, the California WEA, the Nevada Water Environment Association, as well as Cal Nevada AWWA. And then Cal Nevada left the collaboration back in the mid-2000s. So what the seminar has evolved into today, again, it's a 3-day program with technical sessions. The conference is a little bit different from other ones that I've been to in that the session length is 50 minutes. So that allows about 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes for the actual presentation, 5 to 10 minutes for questions. And that allows for each session you go to, you can earn a professional development hour. The sessions usually go from 7:30 to 3:30. And one of the things we do is send our program to the state certification agencies to make sure that they will sign off on accepting or providing PDH certification for the program. The conference also has some other activities, including there's a social event, a golf tournament. We also incorporate workshops that are put on by companies and other professionals. Last year we had 20 different workshops. We also have educational tours, and then we have a emerging professionals event to try to bring more younger folks into our volunteer base. We also have an exhibition hall. That's 2 out of the 3 days of the conference. Again, another thing that's slightly different from other events is that when the sessions are going on, the exhibition hall is closed, and then once the sessions are done, the exhibition hall is open. So basically, everyone moves from attending sessions to going to the exhibition hall. We have 523 booth spaces, and that last year we had 230 exhibitors that took up every booth space that we had available. So in 2024, we're trying to keep this affordable, so our registration cost is only $99. Attendees can earn up to 21 professional development hours. We had 15 different program tracks. You can see the list there on the slide. We had over 4,500 participants this past year, which was a record for us. Over 2,800 attendees, over 100 speakers, and over 1,200 exhibitor personnel. Our exhibit space typically sells out very rapidly. All of our booth spaces were sold within an hour, and we had 83 event sponsors this past year. So that's kind of just a brief overview of where the conference is today. Our next event is the event is always held in August, and this will be our 40th year coming up this coming August of 2025.
That's amazing. So how do you work the finances with 3 different MAs coordinating on such a large event?
So I'll get into the kind of how the things are structured, and then talk a little bit about budgeting. So when the collaboration first got together, they were operating under what was called a mutual participation agreement, and that was reevaluated every 6 years. As the conference grew, one of the disadvantages to that type of agreement was that one of the associations had to be kind of like the fiscal sponsor, in that they had to take care of the acquiring insurance, filing taxes, that type of thing. And so in 2015, when the agreement was coming up for reevaluation, it was decided to look into other agreement types. And what we ended up doing was forming an LLC. And the advantages to the LLC is that each of the 3 associations are now equal partners. It also limits the financial liability to the 3 member associations, in that the LLC is its own entity. So it was formally established in 2017. We have a 15 person board of managers. There's 5 managers that are selected from each member association to represent them. We have an executive committee that so it's a 2-year rotation, so that we have a chair, vice chair, and secretary, and it's a 2-year rotation where the chair is for 2 years is from California, then Arizona, then Nevada, and that keeps rotating through. Since we're our own entity, we have our own tax ID number. We conduct an annual audit, and we issue K-1 documents to the member associations, and we also procure our own insurance policies to cover our potential liabilities. It's a 100% volunteer organization. We have about 120 volunteers that help out not only during the conference but throughout the year. So the planning and execution of it, we have 7 different committees, and then we do use some contract services as well to help out. So as far as that's kind of how it's structured. As far as the finances go, we have quarterly board meetings. The conference is held in August, so our 4th quarter board meeting, which is held in November, that's where we go over the conference financials for the year. We look at what our expenses were, what our income was, and how close we came to our budgeted amounts that were established. And then that's at that time, then we can determine how much we want to keep from the income that's the net income that we get, how much we keep for the LLC, and what kind of monetary share we can contribute to each of the associations. And then also at that meeting, then we established the budget for the coming year. And it's we've been fairly successful with it. Especially in about 2018 or so is when we started using sponsorships or for different activities, and so that's really helped with our financials, as well as just the amount of exhibitor interest. That also helps to keep that the registration costs low for our attendees. And with that low registration cost, we do get a lot of attendance from a lot of small rural municipalities and water associations to help them get the training that they need.
Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful. So let's take a little shift here. We're going to shift over to a related topic. So the Young Professionals puts on another exciting event. So Brian, could you give us a quick overview of the conference raffle that the YPs hold during the AZ Water annual conference and exhibition? And then what does the revenue from the raffle go to?
Yes, thank you, Anna. So the YP raffle is the primary fundraiser hosted by the Young Professionals Committee. We host it every year at the AZ Water Conference. The conference runs, we have the golf tournament on Monday, and the overall conference runs through Thursday. The YP raffle itself is typically, we host that Tuesday and Wednesday of the conference, just to give people enough time to see the prizes and stuff like that, but also to purchase tickets. We sell tickets before at the conference, whether that's through like the different consultants that some of us work for on the YP committee, the different municipalities, as well as the different vendors. As the conference has grown, the Young Professionals raffle has grown as well. As you can see in the upper left corner, that's one of our flyers that we disperse throughout the conference floor, as well as we share that with our peers here across the Phoenix metro area and elsewhere across the state, to try to spur interest in the Young Professionals raffle. One of the big keys with our raffle is we sell tickets individually, but we really try to encourage individuals to purchase bundles of tickets at a reduced cost per ticket. I think that's really attributed to the success for the Young Professionals raffle. Year over year, we've increased the funds raised. Previously, back since 2021, I believe we raised just under $12,000. Last year in 2022, we raised just under $12,000. In 2023, we raised around $18,000. And then you can see at the bottom left of this slide, we raised $22,345. And the success of the Young Professionals raffle can really only be attributed to not only to the sponsorships, but also the participation from the Young Professionals. Not only our treasurers, our two past treasurers you see in the lower left corner right there, Adrian and Sarah, have done a tremendous job with the YP raffle. This is an event that AZ Water YPs have been hosting for years. I know we took a little bit of a hiatus in 2020 and 2021, seeing as the conference was virtual. But I think we've really had an awesome, turnaround, especially since the conference had its first in-person meeting back in 2022 since COVID. I think another thing that's really contributed to our success is not only accepting cash for tickets, but we also coordinated with the AZ Water treasurer to make sure that we also had a Square card reader I know one thing that kind of sometimes kept folks from buying tickets was maybe if they didn't have cash on hand. In previous years, we didn't necessarily have a Square card reader, but that's definitely something that I believe has contributed to the success of the YP raffle.
Yeah, I can say I rarely have cash on hand too, and that would be a barrier for me. Well, that's
Absolutely.
good. Yeah. So many of the events that we've talked about, depend on sponsorships. So do you have any best practices for requesting sponsors?
Yes, so for us, we really try to get an early head start. That first bullet point you see there, typically when the conference is held in either April or May, we try to really start the heavy lift 2 months out. But that's more so, getting more of the YPs involved, the treasurer, all those sort of things. But even then, if we back out a few months prior to the conference, we're still getting the word out to young professionals. Just that way it's a little bit top of mind. So that way, closer as we get closer to the conference, people are aware of what's coming up, the lift, and what's necessary to make sure we get those sponsorships. You can see the first picture at the top with the different colors. So that's our contact list. And so one of the more important parts of this is making sure that contact list is up to date. Depending upon the different consultants, vendors, municipalities, other groups and entities that donate, contact information can change on a fairly regular basis. So a lot of times for some of our contact lists, we'll have multiple points of contact for each individual sponsor that's donated over the past several years. Most importantly is to develop and adhere to a schedule. The picture in the lower left is just a rough schedule that we have outlined for the YP raffle, just to make sure that we're tracking and staying on task for not only reaching out to sponsors, sending the follow-ups, building in a little bit of float to that schedule as well, just to make sure that there's more than enough time so we're not scrambling before the conference. Consistency with messaging, I think that's really been one of the things that's helped a lot. In the lower right, you see an email outline that we have. So what we do is when we have, let's say we have a group of 20 YPs from the committee who are interested in helping, send out the messaging to the different sponsors asking about sponsorships. We have our own template email that, the young professionals can tweak as they see fit to the different sponsors. But one, just to, kind of have a formal outline that lists out the different items that we've received in the past, whether those are Traeger grills, TVs, golf carts, gift cards, you name it. Just kind of encourage and give the sponsors ideas of what we've received in the past or any other items that they may be interested in donating. And so I think the most important thing too on the previous slide in the picture is to show our appreciation. So we try to do this, number one, by having a banner that'll have logos from the different sponsors that provide gifts for the AZ Water Conference raffle, just to make sure that not only are we, we're asking for sponsorship, and that really helps spur some of the events that we host here for the YPs, but also make sure that, hey, we really want to show our appreciation. So for some of the larger prizes, we'll have maybe a little larger logo in front of, let's say, a Traeger grill that was donated from a particular contractor or a particular municipality or consultant. But also we have on the boxes that raffle participants submit their tickets in, we have the name of the sponsor there as well. And I forgot to touch on this on the previous slide, but the importance of the sponsorships is that the YP committee, as John and others have discussed earlier, we help sponsor sending the Fresh Ideas contest winner, which is typically for a young professional, be it in college or a young professional on the committee. If they have presented at the conference and their presentation wins the Fresh Ideas Conference, we sponsor them to go to the ACE conference. This last year, we sponsored, I believe it was a University of Arizona student, and sent them to ACE in California. In addition to that, some of the funds that we raised through the YP raffle also help sponsors sending additional young professionals to the AWWA and WEF YP Summit. This year, due to the success of the YP raffle, we were able to send 2 additional YPs to the YP Summit in Portland. And so we really want to emphasize, not only like the our gratitude for the sponsorships and all the donations that we receive, but also, show back to the folks who are gracious enough to donate what these are going to.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, thanks. Those are really nice tips, because sponsorships that's a fundraising part is always a little scary for a lot of folks. So, all right. So thanks, Brian, for that. So we've talked a lot about money, and AZ Water is clearly good at bringing in revenue. So knowing that they're a 501c3, I'm going to direct a few questions to Suzanne, who's the AZ Water's executive director. So Suzanne, what would you say the association's biggest focus is with generating? Would you say that generating revenue is your biggest focus, or is there something else?
No, I would say that it's not. At AZ Water, we believe that it's important to provide additional value to our members. And this is possible because of our financial stability and our volunteers' efforts. We know that the time our members spend volunteering could be spent in many other places, and providing programming and events to not only grow professionally, but personally is at the core of the organization.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the activities that AZ Water has offered that are non-revenue generating, and then how does that benefit your membership?
We offer 50 to 60 events per year, and when you include committee meetings, we have slightly more than 130 opportunities for our members to engage. Included in those activities, we have found a variety of ways to enhance the member experience. I'm going to share with you a few of those opportunities. First, you'll see our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion group committee. We call it JEDI, and it started in 2020, and it's grown every year. The committee has engaged outside facilitation since the beginning through a selective process, and that led not only to the creation of the founding documents of the committee, but also to an annual personal professional development workshop focused on DE&I that is attended by council members and committee chairs and a few board members. Our goal is not to just have board members and leadership there. We want to spread the training across the organization. JEDI's current focus is on accessibility, whether that is the colors that we use on our website designs going forward, working on chat to text and online and in-person meetings, including hopefully in our general sessions at our 2025 annual conference. This has been a place that we've tried to do that several times, and it has been cost prohibitive, but it's changed some. And then we also are focused on making space for sensory and other needs when possible at our annual conference. This year and every year since 23, we've done some board development training, and this is solely for the board. And we continue to have one session with the board of directors each year. In 2024, we've been working with a consultant and have focused not only on the board's roles and duties, but we've also done a deep dive into cultural awareness focused on Native American iconography. In 2025, we will convene our third cohort of water professionals that range in professions that range from operators, municipal and private water companies, consultants and engineers and beyond to participate in development. So that's been great to work with them and grow the board, and the response has been good. And hopefully with our board learning more, we're going to be able to expand that into our general membership.
Okay. I
And
saw
then
you
we
had
have
some other items here too that were cool.
Leadership development also. We'll be doing our third cohort this year. One of the biggest things we do is supporting our members. Is a large part of our membership is the operator network. And we really try to support them in their competitions and their travel to WEF and ACE. And of course, they are the main focus of our own annual conference. In 2024, we actually engaged a PR professional, and we were able to have operators and competition teams interviewed on the local news and highlighted. So it was fun not only to see hydrant hysteria and meter mania on the news, but also to see our operators interviewed and kind of highlight them and show the support that we have, because our operators make up the largest portion of our membership. And how we ensure the operators have the resources they need is we designate funds raised from an annual golf tournament, and then sponsorships and our annual budget to cover their expenses.
Yeah, circling back to sponsorship again, right? Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you. All right. So, well, thanks, Suzanne. That was helpful. So I'd like to bring it back now to budgeting. and ask Amy Baker, how the financial sustainability of AZ Water benefits WEF.
Thank you. So AZ Water is a joint AWWA and WEF association. So I'm going to keep it very surface level because AZ AWWA budget, it can get tricky. It's tracked separately. But I do have some info on the slides, even though I won't be detailing it. But AZ Water receives funds based on the number of WEF memberships. That money helps support sending the Arizona Stockholm Junior Water Prize winner and their sponsor to the next level competition each year. We also give a donation to the Water Research Foundation each year. One big thing that we do support is sending board members and leaders to WEF events. So we will send 2 to 3 of our board members and delegate, I'm the delegate, but 2 WEF MACs. We send 3 people to the DC Fly-In, which includes a YP and a member of the Governmental Affairs Committee, and 2 to 3 board members to WEF Tech. And I think one thing that I know some MAs do this, but we fully support our delegate at large when we have one for all the travel that's listed above. And so that's amazing that we're able to do that. So that's kind of a benefit. So the income we receive from WEF memberships, it's much lower than the cost to cover all of these activities. But this type of support actually helps grow interest, therefore membership. It develops our board to continue with WEF's vision and mission, because the more board members we get going to WEF events, the more they learn and become a part of WEF. And the House of Delegates gets the bodies we need at these events to show up and put in the work that needs to get done.
Yeah, it's great. Very hand in hand. Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much the questions that we curated for this group. So now we're going to open it up to the audience for questions. So we can do it 2 ways. So you can feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you, and then you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type your question into the chat box. Kelsey is here today. She's going to help us out with the chat, managing the chats. So just do whatever you feel is most comfortable for you. And we can go ahead and get started. We'll give you a second or 2 to kind of enter your questions or think of them as we go along.
I do have a question for Brian. I'll get us started off on some questions. So it's been a minute since I've been a YP, and I just remember how beneficial it was to get out there at a conference, meeting and talking to other professionals. As a YP, you get a little intimidated to go out and talk to some of the seasoned professionals. So you give this opportunity to a large group of young professionals. About how many volunteers do you see coming to the conference that are young professionals?
I'd say it's anywhere between 15 to 20. So I know Sarah, Adrian, and I know Andrea this year, like we'll have different time blocks. So that way YPs were able to go, be it, students at ASU, U of A, or NAU, or as well as YPs on the committee, they can sign up for different time slots. So anywhere between 15 and 20. So a lot of times, like we try to do is maybe if they're only able to come one day to the conference, we'll really encourage folks to do maybe an hour, 2-hour block or several of those, but also be able to walk the floor to be able to meet, different vendors, different contractors, et cetera. So it really has helped a lot. Because I know in years prior, sometimes it might have been more the responsibility of the YP treasurer to do some of the heavy lifting and manning the table and stuff like that. So it's made, I think, everything smoother for the YP raffle.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, and there's a couple questions that have come in. So following up with the raffle question theme, the first is, how much are the raffle tickets sold for?
So in years past, we were selling them, I think, an individual ticket for $5, and then we'd sell multiple for, I want to say 3 or 4 for 20. I know this year we changed the price a little bit. I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but we also want to be mindful of, being a 501c3 and keeping the costs like relatively low, just to make sure we get the same amount of participation. I think this last couple of years where we've, tried to increase sales by selling multiple tickets, let's say $20 for 4 or 5 or for multiple tickets. I think that's really helped, spur more interest year over year these past 3 years at the AZ Water Conference. So typically, I think one ticket's around $5 to $6, and then to try to encourage the purchase of more tickets, we'll sell multiple tickets for a discounted per ticket cost.
All right, great. Thank you. And I'm going to keep you on the spot in the hot seat right now. There's a couple other questions related to the raffle tickets. So the first is, are the YP raffle awards obtained via sponsors, or do the YPs have to purchase them from their budget?
So they are completely from sponsors. So I know a couple years ago, we had, I think, 2 or 3 Traeger grills that were donated. Those were big ticket items that really got a lot of interest from participants at the AZ Water Conference. All the gifts are donated, whether it's from different contractors, vendors. A lot of times, sometimes vendors, contractors, and others look at it almost as a mini competition to see who can have some of the coolest prizes, because it really does spur interest and whatnot. But yes, they're 100% donated from the sponsors.
All right, great. Thank you. And one final question for you here. Have the YPs thought about doing a 50-50 raffle?
We've put some thought into it. And I definitely think that's something we could look even further into. I know the YP raffle, we've been doing this for 10 plus years. But that's definitely something we could look into. And we put a little bit of thought to it, but I know the YP raffle, at least year over year, we've had such success, but not something we've taken a deep dive into just yet.
All right, thank you. So moving on to other general questions. The first is, what is your annual budget?
I'll take that one. So our annual budget, I actually pulled up our budget for this year, looking for a total. Our current treasurer did not total it for me. We basically we're a little over $1 million a year in revenue and expense. So that's what I recall from a few years ago. So but yeah, we do quite a bit of volume. We have a lot of activities, program committee activities, and in addition to our conference, and so yeah, we do a lot of stuff. I was the past treasurer a few years ago, and our current treasurer is on the call. So, but we're probably the busiest board member, other than maybe the president, but I think we're still the busiest board member.
All right, thank you. Next question. It was noted that there is about 2,500 attendees at the annual conference. How many members do you have, and have you seen any trends in your membership numbers?
Suzanne will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're about 2,600, 2,700 members now. And our membership numbers have been a slow growth over the years. And we currently do not have any full-time staff. We have our executive director, Suzanne. She's part-time with the association. And then we also have 2 others that are part-time.
So I did one, I think the 2,500 attendees was for the tri-state conference. Do we have higher numbers for our annual
Yeah.
conference? I thought we
So-
were higher.
Yes. In Tri-State was 4,500, if I had it right, Tom. And then AZ Water, we got to about 3,100 attendees this year. 2641 is our current member total. We see a little bit of a dip in renewals at the beginning of the year. And then as leading up to our conference, because you have a discount as a member, we see that membership always gets somewhere close to 2,700 members. So while we don't potentially have a large growth year to year, we do have a consistent membership. So it really makes it good to budget that way because we know where that's coming from.
And I'll jump back in real quick because I wanted to circle back on the annual budget number. So currently, right this year, our expenses and income are about 1.8 million.
Okay, great, thank you. And okay, so I'm going to shift to a question. This is not financial, so break from the financial stuff for a minute. But the question is your DC fly-in delegation one water? If so, does that make for better and easier conversations with legislators?
I can answer that if no one else wants to take that. So yes, so back in the day, when AWWF had the same fly-in day during Water Week, fly-in days, and then there was like a year or two where they weren't together, I think post-COVID. But this last year, yes, because I think we both go regardless of when the dates are, but we like doing it together. We are one association, we all know each other, and the topics do somewhat overlap. So we tackle it together jointly, and it's been great. This last year, Suzanne had set up the meetings with legislators, and we just kind of divvied it out with the representatives, and it worked out really well. It's nice having a big group, especially when we were able to get a lot of meetings scheduled.
All right, and I'm seeing thumbs up for that. Thank you, Amy. And that is it for the questions in the chat box right now.
So since I'll ask a question to the group, and whoever wants to can answer. So one thing that Central States has been facing is rising cost of renting the hotel space, and the food in particular has been very expensive. And so have the sponsorships that you collect been part of the reason that you've been able to keep your costs so low for the Tri-State seminar, or are there other tricks that you could share?
So for Tri-State, a lot of it has to do with, so where we hold the event is called the South Point Hotel and Casino, and they have a lot of hotel rooms, they have a lot of restaurants there, and they have a lot of meeting space. So there's a couple things at play. One of them was we used to have the conference towards the end of September, but one of the issues with that was it started getting really close to some years when the WEFTEC was. And so we worked with the hotel and we moved it to August. That's kind of a slow period for the hotel. So we got really good like room rates and that type of thing. One of the things that I think helps us with costs, in addition to sponsorships, but we don't do like plated meals or that type of thing. We do have like coffee stations during the day. We have at some of the events we have food served, like a buffet type thing. But for like meals during the day, because the hotel has like 11 different restaurants, everybody just goes and is on their own for meals, because I think meals and food from event like at the convention center for our annual conference, that's one of the largest I mean, you get killed on food costs. So if you have it at a location where there's enough immediate, I think, areas where people can eat, and they're on their own for that helps out a lot with cost.
Right. There is another question that's popped into the chat here, which is so we're going back to membership numbers. The 2,700 members of AZ Water, are those WEF members, or is it a mix of WEF and local MA members?
It is a mix.
It is a mix.
Go ahead,
yes.
Suzanne.
Nope, you're fine. It's a mix.
Okay. So we have the AWWA members, we have the WEF members, and then we do have just AZ Water members. So I am very much guessing at this number. We are about 300 WEF. We don't have enough WEF members to get a second delegate, which we really wish we could do. I don't think we're close to that, though.
All right, thank you. And now we're getting, it looks like there's the question about the fly-in has generated a lot of back and forth here. So there's comments in the chat about that, but no other questions at this point.
So we are getting close to the end. So I just want to mention a few things. If people still have questions or come up with something right before we hop off, that's totally fine. But this MA Spotlight has been recorded and it will be available on YouTube to share with your MA. If you found any of the conversations interesting, please do share that. We have upcoming spotlights every month, so please keep an eye out, attend, and share the upcoming spotlights. I saw 84 on here. Our goal is 100 or 83. I'm not sure. I was trying to look, but I also was trying to navigate the slides. So I didn't see if we had a higher number than 83. So yeah, please call or forward these out. If you have any spotlight ideas, please go ahead and put them in the chat. If you have ideas that you want your MA to present or ideas that you want some other MA to present, if there's someone out there that can, you can put them in the chat or you can reach out to Peter Garvey, and Peter Garvey will put his email in the chat so that you have it. But yeah, we're looking for some ideas. We have some we don't quite have a title yet for the one next month, but keep an eye out. Anyone else have anything to add?
One final question, Amy, which is there an inflow program? Or does AZ Water have an inflow program?
We do not have an inflow program. When I became the WEF delegate, I was introduced like more intimately with that program, and I'm pretty passionate about it. So I have sent a couple of rumblings to the JEDI committee. I sit on that as well, and thinking when I have time after my delegate time is up, I may want to pursue that because I do think it's a great program. And I've seen other MAs that have highlighted their inflow programs and their versions of the inflow program, and it seems to be very successful. So I'm highly in support of that, but we do not have one with AZ Water. All right, well, Peter's email is in the chat. And then, yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.
Thank you all.